Over the last couple of months, the things that have occupied my time greatly is sorting out lots of stuff. You laugh. It's hard to do. It's hard to go through things that you've got packed away in boxes. Maybe you hadn't opened those boxes for quite a while. And you open them up and see the treasures that are there or the messes that are there that should be tossed out. Day after day on the weekends when we would go home, I would begin to sort through things and try to figure out what are the things I'm going to keep and what are the things we're going to give away and what are the things that just need to be tossed. Ask my husband. Lots of trash bags went up that basement all the way out. Ask my husband. Not enough trash bags went up those stairs and out. It's tough to sort through things and figure out what you need to keep. It became even harder when I didn't know where we were going. First of all, we didn't plan on selling the house, and it sold. And then we had to sort through things, and then we didn't have a place to live when we decided we were going to Arizona, where our son lives in Phoenix. And so I didn't know what I was packing for, and so everything had to go in storage in Wichita. If you've ever moved with movers, they come and they give you an estimate of how many pounds of stuff you have to move. Our estimate was 11,000 after we told them we aren't taking this and we aren't taking this and we aren't taking this. And then our challenge was to see if we could come under that. And so when they weighed us out, we weighed 8,900 pounds. I felt pretty good about that. Sorting is hard. It's especially hard when you're not quite sure what's on the other side. In these last months that we have been together, there's been a lot of sorting, a lot of unpacking of emotions and thoughts and ideas, and a lot of shifting things around and repacking things into new packages and new ways of thinking about who we are and where we are going into the future. Lots and lots and lots of questions. Who are we now? Where is God calling us to go and to be? Who is God calling us to be? All of those are questions that we began to ask, along with who is God calling for leadership in this congregation. Not just the leadership of a new pastor, but who is God calling forth among yourselves as the leaders in the congregation? The thing I found difficult when I first started looking at sorting things out and packing is I didn't know where to start. I'd walk down and go down. I had a big storage room in our basement. And I'd walk down and I'd go and I'd open the door and I'd look at that and I'd go, oh my goodness, where do I start? And I'd shut the door. I did that several times, and I had done that for probably the last couple of years. I'd look and I'd wonder, how am I going to start this? Where am I going to start with this? How am I going to sort out all of this stuff? And I felt sometimes like I was in a blizzard, like everything was in front of me like a whiteout, and I couldn't figure out how to get through that because I couldn't see in my mind's eye where we were going. Parker Palmer starts out one of his books called Hidden Wholeness. And he tells the story about in the northern plains when they get ready for a blizzard. The thing they do is tie a rope between the barn and the house because people can't see sometimes where they're going when those blizzards come, and people end up walking off in a different direction, not knowing where they are. And I feel like here in the congregation, we had to learn how to tie the rope and how to hold on to that rope to find our way from point A to point B. You're not all the way to point B yet. You're not all the way to where God is leading you now, and the leaders that God is bringing forth to be among you, but we learned how to grab a hold of that rope. And so as I thought about that story, the thought that kept coming to me, both in my own personal life and in the life of this congregation, is what's the rope? What are we holding on to? What are we very carefully holding and moving forward into the whiteouts that are ahead of us? It's God's grace and God's hope and God's love and God's forgiveness and God's Spirit that brings us wisdom and care. We had to go back to the basics and remember we have to hold on to God. And it is God, as we hold on, who gives us the wisdom and the way forward when we don't see that way forward. So as we've walked and held to that rope, as we've packed and we've unpacked things and we've reorganized, we have discovered that God has a vision for this congregation. A vision to be a place of connection, of compassion, a place where people reach out and care not only for one another, but for the community around. And last week, Don delineated some of all the wonderful ways that you as a congregation are reaching out into that community. But you don't just reach out into the community. You reach in to one another. Sitting at the board meeting on Wednesday night, as Worth is giving the report from the caregivers and how many contacts they had. For those of you who are on the board, I don't have that totally memorized, but I think, and Worth's here, he might even correct me, but I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 89 visits since the last report, so that would be 2 months. Not to count all of the cares and the cards and the other contacts. Your vision of being caring, and the hospital visitors that visit one another, and the deacons and the elders, and the ways that we share forth God's love. It was a vision to begin to redevelop a community of love and grace, and know that all of that comes from God. So how do we say goodbye? One of the places that I think we get some help is from our first president, George Washington. It might not be a surprise, Randy, if I end up with a song from some kind of musical. Last spring, we got to go to Hamilton. And in that lovely musical, there's a song that George Washington sings with Hamilton back and forth. The title of the song is One Last Time. one last time. And he says to Hamilton, we're writing this farewell address to the people. One last time, this address will be shared with everyone. The people will hear from me one last time. And when and if we get it right, we're going to teach them how to say goodbye, you and I. If I say goodbye, the nation learns to move on. It outlives me when I'm gone. The story behind Washington's farewell address can offer us wisdom. He began writing it soon after he became president the first time. He started writing that farewell address with James Madison. And now, after the second term, as he tells Hamilton he's not going to seek a third term. He's going to go home because in his leaving, the people will find new leadership, a way to move forward as the people, as the nation. So as interim ministers, part of our job is to come and from the beginning to figure out how we can say goodbye and leave you in a better place than when we found you, so that you can come forth and remember that it is God's grace that goes with you. And even though you may not be able to see it, even though you may not be able to know the future, I don't have a crystal ball on exactly what we're going to be doing. And you don't have a total crystal ball on what you're doing. You have steps and plans and ideas. But it's God who will water all of that and bring that to fruition. For God's grace is abundant. And I pray for you that prayer that Jesus prays in that John 17 when he's praying, not just for the disciples, but for all of us who would come afterwards, that we may be one with the whole body of Christ and go forth sharing God's love and grace with the world around us. Knowing that it is that love and grace and hope and peace and wisdom of God that leads us, that carries us, and upon whom we can trust. Trust in the Lord, and God will bring what it is that He is wanting us to be. The people of God. For the whole people of God. Amen.